Welcome to SoundWave, the podcast that covers the behind the scene production and meaning of your favorite albums.
I'm Gabby.
I'm Brian. We all enjoy music and diving deep into what we all love about music. But most importantly, what is the best music to play during a solo sesh or even a kickback with your friends?
Drugs, sex, and alcohol have all been known to be inspirations for many musicians. We now see how drugs and psychedelics are now creating their own genre through these musicians. And we're here to talk about it and take a trip with you as we explore today's album, Daft Punk's Homework. Okay, so I chose this album because I think it's one of their earliest. It was one of their earlier albums with when they came out and stuff like that. And so
What album is this?
it's like their first album, essentially their 1997 album. And I chose it mainly because I saw that they posted their 25th anniversary of it, like their rework, and I really liked it. And let me see, I think it is their earliest album. Yeah, like their first album that they came out with after their single, and I really like it. I grew up kind of listening to it. My brother would play it or play certain songs from it. So once I realized what it was, now that I have my own phone and own account, with my own music and stuff like that, I was like, oh, that's where it's from. I just never knew the name of it.
Can you talk a bit more about who we're talking about?
So Daft Punk is a duo from France. They originally started out as a trio, but their third member went off to be a part of the band Phoenix. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I listen to Phoenix. Phoenix is cool. And I can't say their names to save my life. Literally, I was like, it's Thomas Banglater. I'm gonna totally chop it up. And then Guy Manuel de Home Cristo. And yeah, I was like, I don't want to chop up their names. But they came from France. They assisted with a bunch of other things. They were with Kanye. They did a song with Pharrell. They did a song with The Weeknd. But they originally got together circa 1993, and then 4 years later they had their first album, Homework.
So, Daft Punk Homework. Can you please tell us about your favorite song of this album? Or do you have a specific song that you really like from him?
I would say Defunk, honestly. I really like it. It's just something to play in the background while I'm driving on my way to work, and it's got a pretty steady beat to it. I really like it. But a lot of the music from the first album, I feel the beat kind of carries throughout the album, which I really like in terms of just the pattern of it. And it's not a whole different jump from one song to the next. It's pretty consistent in the way it's produced and everything like that.
Can you tell us a bit more about why you like these songs? Like, what's so special about this genre, or what are they creating?
So with this genre, I guess a lot of other bands or groups have stemmed off from Daft Punk. I feel they created somewhat of the EDM scene, and going into that, their Coachella performance from a couple years ago. You see that tower with the big stage and the lights. And so I think they definitely created their own era of music with that. And I think it's really cool how they have that much influence on other DJs and mixers. And I went to a club the other night, had a Daft Punk night, and there was a bunch of people who went, and people dressed up in the helmets, and you just see their impact on other people and how it's come this far.
why do you find Daft Punk so interesting compared to other artists, especially during that time in the 90s? Why do you think they stood out?
I think they stood out because of like the mystery behind them too. The whole idea behind like the helmets and stuff was um I looked it up. It was from a movie called Phantom of the Paradise. And it's essentially like Phantom of the Opera, except it's like this music producer was tricked into like giving up his life's work to like some person like in the industry, like a manager, which is like what we see today. And he had someone else play his music because he didn't want to be seen. So that whole thing, like the masks and like wanting just to be known for his music and not for like the face, was part of like the whole helmet thing. So I think like the mystery behind it is they just wanted to be known for what they made and not what they look like.
It's great that you mentioned that because majority of the artists in this moment, they all care about cloud and fame. They just want to have their face out there, getting recognized and just being the center of attention. But it's quite fascinating that Daft Punk wasn't the same. They had this huge following out of nowhere, but they chose to wear helmets.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I think it's like somewhat of a humble way to go, and I'm sure like they are still recognized for like the people who like know who to look for, but honestly, you could be walking right past them in like the airport, the grocery store, like you have no idea like who they are. And I think that's crazy. Like I'm like, did I walk past them? Like you never know. But I don't think they would be like in Whittier. Like
You
on the
never
off
know.
chance.
They're probably your neighbor. You never find out.
Huh. I'm like looking out. But yeah, I really
Hey,
like it. I think that's a really cool aspect to them. Cause you are right, like a bunch of bands like they want like the fame, like the claim to fame and stuff like that. And they didn't. So I think that's really like cool.
it is. It is. Now, going back to more of their discography, they did release several albums from their homework from 1997. They released about three more, and that's when I personally started learning about them, which was back in 2010 when they made an appearance for Tron Legacy, the movie. And personally, I've never heard of Daft Punk as in the name as much, or even just like their music, but I would hear it when I was out at shows or anything like that. But it was never as in, oh, who's this band or anything like that. And it's crazy because now that I listen to the music, I'm like, oh my god, I know this one. Wait, this is Daft Punk.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when I finally saw them during the Tron Legacy movie, I was like, oh my god, that's a sick ass music. Because I find it so amazing that they fit so perfect for this movie. Because one, it's so futuristic. It's like literally what Daft Punk sounds like
And what they look like essentially.
and what they look like.
Yeah.
Yes, damn. So especially when you're just watching the movie and the song just comes out and you're like, oh, that's nice, Daft Punk. And then they have a cameo in that scene.
Yeah, they do have a cameo. I was like, that's fire. And then they're coming out, they announced like Tron 2 or like another Tron movie, but everyone's like speculating like, are they gonna score it? Are they not gonna score it? Like who's gonna
Why?
do
Why
it?
is that? Can you tell us more on why they
Um,
might or might not do it?
they retired. They announced their retirement like January, February of last year. So it's been like a full year since they've announced that and did a whole video like with homage to like their movie epilogue. So I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I heard the announcement, but it also gives hope for like if they retired, there's always like a comeback tour, like a reunion. So I think that's something you can kind of look forward to, but I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon.
We're just hoping now.
Yeah, just praying.
Yeah, no, but definitely, Daft Punk is one of those artists that you just start listening to them, you're like, this is something I can get used to.
Yeah,
Because, like, comparing to other artists that are just not are they experimenting, but they're just staying in a simple genre. It's like, I don't know about that. But then there's Daft Punk that are actually, they have everything in there. They have synth, they have drums, they have a great beat throughout the whole albums.
yeah.
And it's like, this is groovy.
It is.
So
Yeah.
initially that was a reason why I started to get into them, because more of just the feelings and ambience that they send through their music. It ain't something that you go out and like, oh hell yeah. No, it's more like, oh damn, this is nice. And that's why I started listening to them more.
I think it's
Because
definitely in like the genre of like tech, like not like electric, like club music. I think
yeah,
that's where like it started, like with those like house music, like those house parties where everyone's just like head down dancing, like everyone's just chilling. And obviously, like you go to those parties, you don't know the type of people who are there, but going into that, you don't know the type of music that's going to be there. So I think when this type of music's playing, I think everyone's just able to focus on like one thing and then just kind of like go with it and like just, I guess, dance to it.
that is so true.
Right?
That is so true. From experience, talking about electric dance music, I've gone to several festivals, and as someone who ain't that outgoing and I don't dance or anything like that as much, because mainly just like self confidence and so. But
Mm-hmm.
once I got there to these festivals, I was like, damn, nobody's even looking at me. So
Yeah.
I'm just there enjoying and having a good time dancing around, and I just look to the person to my left or right, and they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Like,
I can see why you say electric dance music is something that you just groove, because everybody is grooving. Like there is no right or wrong to a dance or anything like that. You're
yeah. There's no dance style that goes with it. It's just literally like, you just let it go. Like, you just let it
it's
take
your
you.
feelings.
Just like chill.
Correct.
Like you can
Correct.
be like posted up, you can be flying a wall, like holding up the wall, or you could be on the dance floor, like just doing whatever. It doesn't even matter.
And you'll still be having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So I really like it. I don't know. What's your
Did
take
you
on it? What's your take?
my take? Um Honestly, they're a really great band for being, well, for one, they're from France and coming out in the 90s during a grunge type of movement out there, well, especially within the punk in the United Kingdom area, Europe. That's where all this punk and grunge music was coming out from. So, in order to just out of nowhere, these guys come out with this record, it's quite fascinating how they blew up really quick.
Yeah.
Another great thing of the reason why they blew up was thanks to who is now retired and dead, MTV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is
A
any
lot
play
of
music
their
videos on board?
yeah their music videos. Like I remember watching them like growing up and stuff like that. And I think it was really cool. I think that's a really good to get like exposure, especially now. Um, that would make all the difference to like smaller artists, I guess. But they're also part of like that underground scene, like you didn't know unless you were part of it. Like you don't know until you know or you hear from someone else. So like up and coming, they weren't super big until like they got a couple singles on the radio. And it was hard too because their songs are like not like a regular like 2 minute song. Some of them are like 4 or 5, 6 minutes long, you know, and
Those are the
that's what
best
is
ones.
hard to get on the radio and like get that exposure.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Um, no, this band is quite amazing. Did you ever get a chance to witness Daft Punk?
Oh, no. When they had like all those performances, I was like 12, 13. So I didn't like my mom wouldn't let me go to like Coachella when I was 13, obviously, or go to like New York, whatever, to see them like at Madison Square Garden. So even now, I was supposed to go to Coachella and my mom was like, I don't know. We were supposed to
Oh,
go.
they played at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, they played Madison Square Garden with Phoenix, which I thought was cool.
Oh, and
But
ain't that like a huge thing though, right? Madison Square Garden.
it is pretty big. I feel like once you make Madison Square Garden, like you pretty much made it. Like that's a big venue,
Simple as that.
especially like, especially if you're playing like multiple nights. Like it's a
Oh,
big
wow.
venue.
Yeah,
It's like
definitely.
Super Bowl, Rose Bowl, like type. And they like promote the shit out of that too.
So, Gabby, would you ever be interested in seeing Daft Punk if they do reunite?
Definitely spending my whole check on it, without a doubt. Just because like it's like a once in a lifetime type thing, to
It
have that
truly
type of
is.
influence and like impact on like a vast amount of people. It's insane. Um, it's like seeing like your number one artist only once, or like you found out at a band like and they only have like one album, or you found out a band like they're already retired and
They
like you're
broke
kind of late
up
to
or
the scene,
something.
and you're like,
Yeah,
damn, like I wish I could see him. And
yeah.
then, you know, or I know my homie one time, he bought Mac Miller tickets and he was supposed to see him, and then he died like 2 weeks before he was supposed to go
What?
see him. And he was
No.
pissed, and I was like, that's, yeah. I was like, that
What?
one. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh my God.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. And they didn't
Yeah,
even refund him the
no.
tickets.
Oh,
He
what?
didn't even get a refund. I was like, that's messed up.
Yeah, that's, oh, man. Shout out to Mike Miller,
Yeah, dude,
one of the
definitely.
best artists, man. But yeah,
Definitely.
definitely, punk, Daft Punk. They're they're just those artists that you don't expect anything from them, but you get everything you don't expect from them.
Yeah, they just kind of like make you take a step back, and you're like, whoa, like, okay, like I didn't know that. Didn't know I liked that. Like, especially like in the style of like remixes. Like, I don't know if you know about like the Boiler Room and stuff like that. Like, they have a bunch of like just different artists going in and just doing like, it's like this type of scene like you would see Daft Punk in, or like where they started. So I feel like the Boiler Room is something similar of like where they came from, and I really like those types of like, they have it on YouTube, like the mixes and stuff like that. They're like hours long, and I think that's like a whole scene that they inspired, honestly. Like just taking that and then putting it in a different like setting, different artists, different DJs, different types of music. Everyone's just there, and they're just there for the music essentially.
Definitely, definitely. Speaking about other artists and collaborations, Daft Punk did a couple collaborations before they retired. One of them was The Weeknd, Starboy,
Mm-hmm.
which honestly, I'm in love with that song. And I honestly didn't even know Daft Punk was one of their creators.
Me
So
either. Yeah.
finding out that Starboy was produced by Daft Punk, it's like, bro, no wonder it's so good.
Yeah, and
And it's crazy. Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it.
I didn't even know, like it took me a while to like figure that out. I was like, oh, no wonder. Like, cause like there's certain like aspects to it, and I was like, interesting. They did yeah, they did. And then they performed it too.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. They had some quite unique live performances. They have they even have a song that they also produced with another artist that is like quite huge, and I forgot to even mention it. was with Pharrell. Get Lucky.
Yeah, everybody knows that one. Yeah,
Oh, I
that one's like
remember when that came
iconic.
out.
You hear that one at a party, you better not be dancing. You better not be holding up a wall. You better be dancing.
Uh, I remember when that song came out, it was everywhere. Like you couldn't go anywhere without hearing it on the radio or just
Honestly,
everywhere.
they performed it on SNL too for Starboy. I'm like looking it up right now. I had no idea. That's
Wow.
super cool. SNL. You know what? SNL performances are really good too. I don't know if you watch SNL, but if you watch those performances, like they're really good. They're really awesome. Um,
Yeah, they are. They are. Hmm. Another thing. Uh, why do you think people should check out Daft Punk?
I think definitely if you're looking for like a new style of music, like you're just kind of into like the pop scene or like the hip hop scene, or just like regardless, I think it's like a good base to kind of like go back to. Like if you think about it, a lot of people are inspired from previous bands, or like they're like, you know what, so and so inspired me, like this style or like this technique. And I think it's really good to kind of go back and like reflect on like your, how do I say it? How do I word it? It's like your inspiration's inspiration, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
You know, like they make up most like the music that they have, but like it came from somewhere. They had to get a start somewhere.
definitely. And honestly, think now that you're mentioning it, imagine being one of those people that out of nowhere you find out, oh yeah, Daft Punk got inspired by you, or they
Yeah.
did this song because you did this. Imagine the compliment that person should be
Yeah,
feeling.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
to even be part of the creation of anything Daft Punk related. Yeah, honestly, it's amazing what these guys have done and will continue to do regardless of them being retired because the
Yeah.
music still plays on everywhere. Like it's crazy because ever since we started talking about Daft Punk, I started to notice Daft Punk even more everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
damn,
You're just like,
my
oh,
FBI
listen.
agent is listening. He's like, this guy likes Daft Punk now.
I think it's on, yeah, honestly, like it's really cool. And then just seeing like the impact and like the type of like it's still very noticeable. I feel like it's not it doesn't go unnoticed at any point.
Yeah, it really is. It, they're just so huge, even when they don't exist anymore.
I know. I remember I was like writing like an article or whatever, and I was like just looking at all like the YouTube videos and all like the articles on them, like the photo shoots. It's like the first thing you see is like the helmets.
The helmets. Please tell us a bit more of the helmets.
So the helmets, I think they kind of like they started wearing them as like a form of a like just like a mask just to not get recognized, and they were just like, I don't want to get recognized, like just like once they started doing like the photo shoots and like the interviews when they first like started out, like they didn't want all like the hullabaloo of like being like swarmed on the street and stuff like that. They still wanted to live like a normal life.
Yeah, and I think that was great of them to do that because not only are they protecting their privacy, especially if you know or at least live around the area where they are from.
Yeah.
The privacy is something that, sadly, within artists and music, it's something you kind of give up because you're now a public figure. So
Yeah.
of course you're gonna have everybody just trying to get pictures or any footage of you. So for them to actually just straight out be like, we're not gonna do our face anymore,
They're like, we don't
pretty
really
much
like want that.
it. Yeah, and it's great because as we spoke about it, they are huge. Like
Yeah.
imagine having Daft Punk in front of you and you literally not doing nothing, it's impossible, right? But
Yeah,
thanks to the helmets,
they're able
it
to,
is possible
like,
because
yeah.
yes,
I think
I think that was pretty nice.
I think it's really cool because it's just like they feel secure in like their own space enough to like go without it and then also be recognized with it. Like they're still really they still have like that dynamic of like there's a balance essentially.
Correct. And do you know why they started wearing the helmets, or at least the inspiration behind it?
It was from it was from the movie Phantom of Paradise when the guy was like disfigured and he started wearing the mask. It's like Phantom of the Opera, just like a different like I guess rendition of it. But they started wearing it and they made like their own masks. They started wearing like plastic ones and then eventually they had like their own story behind it saying like they were in like an explosion whatever and they started wearing the helmets because they were so disfigured, I guess. So it's like they basically copied the same story but did it for their own reasons and started wearing helmets instead of like a pointed mask on only like partially their face. Like their whole face was covered, including like their hands and stuff. They started wearing gloves.
It's quite interesting because if you think about Daft Punk, what is the first thing you think of?
The helmets.
Because you don't even have to even know their music. You just know Daft Punk or even their helmets. You know who it is, and I believe that's quite amazing to even have that type of control and knowledge of your personality just being known by a helmet.
Yeah, like football players don't get that same type of like love. Like they're like, oh, they wear helmets, but like not cool ass helmets, you know? Like they don't get that.
Not cool helmets. Yeah, definitely.
So
That
yeah.
is true.
So I think definitely like it's really cool, super influential of just like all the genres like they kind of like dipped into. It was like funk, techno, disco, hip hop, indie rock, pop, like they just like were like they see a genre, they're like we're going to go into it and then just take little like bits and pieces and use it however they would. Like they did mixes, they did samples, they did a bunch of other work and it's still really like you see that type of like sampling and like all that editing, like you still see it now.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. They are they are quite those, when you're thinking about history, you're like, damn, that person was alive at the correct time and place.
Yeah.
It's like for us, that's us when we lived through Daft Punk, maybe a little bit too late because we didn't get experience it completely.
Yeah.
But in order to be alive and witness their creations and their movement and basically everything they have done and left their legacy, it's quite amazing to even think of that.
It says like their style can be like described as like acid house, techno, like progressive house, electro music. Like there's just like a bunch of like I don't know, like just ways to describe them. It says in 2009 like a writer named Andy Warhol as one of Daft Punk's early influences. So like just
Oh
like
wow.
George Clinton, Dr. Dre, Chicago House, Detroit techno, just all the productions and all that good stuff like was like influenced by them, I guess, or like they saw it, they heard it, and they're like, that's something we can definitely do.
Yeah. That is sick. I didn't even know that part.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It is. Well, in your opinion, Do you think Daft Punk is psychedelic?
Um, I would say so, yes, in a way. Psychedelic. Like they have the potential. Like if you were to put like their sounds or like their songs on a screen, the type of like images you would see, I think you would see some like very interesting things, like super trippy.
Definitely. Hmm.
That's how I
You
see it. If you
guys,
could see it on a screen and definitely think of like the Technicolor and all the things that you could see, I think it'd be in that category. What do you think?
one thing, what I think, I mean, yeah, you can watch it in the street, but imagine the people that actually went through it and saw them at
Yeah,
concerts and saw everything and got
they
the
had to be tripping
experience.
on something. Definitely. They had to be on something.
The experience would have been magical. Definitely.
So that's how I
Oh,
kind of categorize it. But I think it goes for like a lot of artists that like you listen to or I listen to. If you could put it on a screen and kind of see something, I think it'd be really cool. I think it's yeah, it can go into like the psychedelic type genre, so to say.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that is our episode for today. Uh, really huge shout out to Daft Punk for inspiring a lot of us, and definitely the music industry because their synth sound, their drums, everything that they have created and released has been honestly something that has to be, my personal opinion, it has been a museum because that is a perfect example of rising in the music industry from a different genre into currently what was a punk rock era. And then you have this electric dance music that just comes out of nowhere and everybody's just hooked on it.
Definitely, like
So
yeah, like the sound of the productions, everything like that is part of how we see and how we sound with the music that we see today. Big fan, always gonna be a fan. I don't mind being a fan. Definitely would love to see them. Definitely a dream to go see them. But huge shout out because it's created a whole different world of music. Definitely.
oh hell yeah, they have. They they left their mark.
Yeah, they did.
Like if you ever wonder about leaving your mark, those people, they did. They left their mark in this world, and who knows, maybe in the future they can do a comeback show or anything. But what they did already has affected so many people, and definitely check out some other artists that they have inspired because, as you said, whoever inspired them, they inspire now so many people, and they took their sound and created their own versions of what they can do because it has been done by Daft Punk. So definitely, if they ever come back, hit us up with tickets.
Yes, please hit us up with tickets. I know even LCD Sound System, like they have a song and it's like Daft Punk is playing at my house and I'm just like, okay, like that'd be fire to have at your house. But thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with a different episode, different album, different artist. I'm Gabby,
I'm Brian.
and this has been SoundWave.